how do we get started with that? Well, one of the simplest things is to fire up a web browser. And I'm gonna fire up Edge here. And I'm gonna go to chat.openai.com. So I'm sure a lot of you have tried this, and I'm not even gonna spend a whole lot of time in here. But I have signed up for an account on chat.openai.com, which is something I pay for every month. I therefore get access to a little more than the free accounts. You have two different options there at this point. You can use ChatGPT 3.5. That is the version of this large language model that came out last November. And it's currently the most solid model that we have. And then there's ChatGPT 4, which is considerably larger, considerably more capable, but it's also kind of a preview at this point, and sometimes a little rough. And they're still tweaking it. They're trying to put guardrails into place. Sometimes, you go in and it works perfectly fine, and then next week it's like, wow, it doesn't understand what it used to understand last week because they're tweaking it and they're trying to put in guardrails, and it's people all up in arms and say, oh, it's not working as well as it used to. And then you come back and another week later, and all of a sudden it's even better than before. And so it's a little unpredictable. So GPT 3.5 is what we use more than anything else. But it's kind of fun to play with GPT 4 because it's just more capable. But it's also slower. And so we could now come in here and we could type in a text. We could say, I am climbing an apple tree and I am picking Anne. And as I then hit send, it will calculate statistically what the most appropriate answer to this is. Zoom in a little more here. And it'll then go on and give an answer. It says, well, we're picking an apple. The tree's branches sway gently beneath me as the light breeze, and so on and so on. GPT-4 tends to be rather wordy, and there's ways of telling it how long we want it to go on. But that would be kind of the simplest version of this, right? And it goes back to what we said before. We're giving it some text, and it then calculates the next most likely word, which in this case is apple. And then it decides it's not done yet, and then it continues the same thing with the next word and the next word until it decides it is done. Okay. So question online is GPT-4 also trained up to November 2022? So GPT-3 is actually even older than that. I think it was, I forget when it was exactly, like we could actually ask, like here, so we go to GPT 3.5, when was your, I don't know, was your training cutoff date? And it'll tell us. So it's September 2021, right? And we could go and we could do the same thing with GPT-4, and then that's considerably newer, but it's not totally new, right? It's September, well, that's actually not even right. I think it's like September 22 or something. But anyway, the point is they're trained up to a certain point in time, and that's what they have knowledge of. But then again, you shouldn't think of a large language model as having knowledge. It's better to think of a large language model as being able to talk. And it's able to talk because it was trained on text, and therefore it coincidentally happens to have that knowledge. But that's not necessarily reliable, right? So that's an important thing to understand. So yeah, trying to zoom in a little more here. But anyway, so that's kind of the simplest version. Now, a slightly different version of this would be Bing Chat. Okay, Bing Chat here is built into things like Edge. I'm using the Edge browser, or you can just go to bing.com, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But the point being is you can ask it questions in here, and you can say, I don't know, what do you know about, what do you know about platypuses? Now, the difference between this, and I know this is small, but the exact answer doesn't matter so much. It just asks it about platypuses. Now, what it does, it goes out and it searches the web first. And it takes the information from the web and it injects it into the question. And it then behind the scenes says, now go ahead and answer this question, not based on what you've been trained with, just use what you've been trained with so you can speak English, but take the information that was just retrieved from the web up to the minute and ground your answer based on those facts. And therefore, it can give you up to the minute information on what's going on. So I could ask it, what's going on with the hurricane in Florida? And it would know right now what's going on with that, right? So the exact answer doesn't matter too much. Again, I know this is small, but just the concepts matter there. So that's kind of what the user would do. Now, as developers, we have other options.